What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back with some more Elder Scrolls Legends, and today we've got the April monthly card. It's already going to be on the screen. I'm not going to do any of those fancy snapping things. I always mess up the direction anyway, so... but the card for April is Seasoned Captain. As you can see, it's 4 cost, 4/4 with Rally, with the ability, when you rally, also give a random item in your hand, +1/+1. So, this card's kind of interesting. Like, when you look at it at first, you kind of look at it and you're like, alright, rally decks in general are pretty crap. So this card's probably pretty crap, and, like, who cares about this card? I don't think that's a super fair first assessment. Gotta look at it. Obviously, we're gonna go into our collection, and let's just start with looking at Rally as a whole. So when you look at Rally, you've got some okay early game cards. You got Serethi Scion, you've got Warclaw Mercenary, but, like, Serethi Scion is the only one that you really feel good about getting out early. All Velothi Assassin's a good one as well. And then you kind of curve out, and there's just a whole bunch of cards that rely on each other to snowball. However, most of them are pretty easily removed if they're not rallied onto. So, like, every single one of these rally creatures has weaker stats for the most part than you would typically get at that cost range. Cool Lawkeeper's a bit of an exception, but again, it's a 3 cost that dies to execute. Execute's not super common at the moment, but again, they all have weaknesses. Like 2-drop that dies to Firebolt and Execute, 3-drop that dies to Execute. Stats aren't the worst, and you do get some value from getting a 2/2 Colovian Trooper. Ball Eastward War Rider is obviously pretty horrible. Bolven Venom, honestly, if this was a 3/4, I would love this card. As of right now, it's just okay. Inspiring Kinsman, obviously woefully understated, but it has Rally 2, and the Last Gasp is essentially Rally 2 as well. But you're rocking with like a bunch of kind of understated creatures because Rally can snowball, so they need to be kind of understated. So this is where I think this card could get interesting. One of the downfalls of these creatures being their stats can kind of be mitigated a bit by playing an items deck. Typically, otherwise though, items were just kind of there. Like, forget that Veteran Battle Spear is something that can be buffed. If you're a rally deck that's playing like a bunch of Scimitars or Cloak and Dagger honestly will be a fantastic target for this card. You've seen, if you've ever played a deck that plays Master Swordsmith, this guy, where is he, right here? That just 1 or 2 triggers of this effect can completely, like, win you the game. And now, obviously, this is a bit of a different situation because this gives every single item in your deck +1/+1. However, Seasoned Captain doesn't have the worst stat line. A 4 cost 4/4, like, we've seen things like Royal Sage see play at 4 cost 4/4 because of the power of her effect. We've seen Piercing Twilight obviously has a really good effect, but it also has a keyword. Sparksmith is a decent new card. Can I search by stat line? No, I cannot. 4 power? I never know what I can actually search for in here, but that was an experiment. But the point is, like, Mystic Dragon sees play as a 4 cost 4/4 for the Prophecy. Not that that is a super feels good stat line, but in the right situation is what I'm trying to say. 4 cost 4/4 can be good enough. And the interesting thing about Seasoned Captain is it rewards you for both rallying and having items in your hand. So I think the ideal situation for something like Seasoned Captain, because the thing to keep in mind is, yes, she has Rally, which makes her better, but her effect is an aura effect, which means she does not need to be the one rallying in order for the items to get the +1/+1 bonus. So if you're only playing a handful of items, let's say you're playing, I don't know, Cloak and Dagger, or Steel Scimitars, or take your pick, really. Like, you pick a handful of cheap items that are good in aggressive decks, play a bunch of those, and then let's say you kind of live the dream of Serethi Scion into either Ald Velothi or Warclaw Mercenary, and then eventually, I don't know, whatever you play after that. Knight of Nesis is a potential. Veteran Battle Spear is potential. Whatever 3 costs you play. So let's say you live that rally from hand dream. Turn 4, you drop Seasoned Captain, and somehow you have a Steel Scimitar in hand or something like that. all 3 of those rallies will trigger right away. And obviously that's a super fringe situation. That's not going to happen super commonly. But it's giving Rally a little bit more oomph. Like, Season Captain is essentially a passive Rally 2. It's kind of like Balmora Captain. So Balmora Captain, your other rallies give an extra +1/+1. However, the reason why I think that Season Captain is potentially more interesting, besides the fact that she costs 1 less, so she's more even in the cost to stat ratio. Whereas, yes, Rally 2 is really, really good, because you're giving +2/+2 to a creature. It's kind of all in that sense. The buffs are all going on the same target, which means if your opponent has hard removal or silence or anything like that, all of that bonus rally value instantly is getting depleted. Whereas with Season Captain, you're getting +1/+1 onto a creature, which is already good. The buff is always good when you're rallying. But you're also splitting an extra +1/+1 onto an item. And the reason why items are more enticing to get buffed than creatures, unless the creature has charge, items can be hidden. Items can be dropped whenever. Items are like pseudo-charge, because if you have a Warclaw Mercenary, your opponent might leave a Warclaw Mercenary because it's only +2/+2. Let me remove the Balmora Captain because it's higher value, or whatever. Take your pick of your mid to late game creature. If your opponent's at 7 health, and they have Warclaw Mercenary on the board, and you have Balmora Captain on the board, or you have Reeve on the board, or you have Scar Drillmaster on the board, that card is going to eat the removal. And then there's a chance that potentially your opponent leaves your 2 cost up, saving that second piece of hard removal because they want to remove your next big threat, your Lyris, or whatever comes next. They might save that next piece of hard removal because Warclaw Mercenary is only a 2/2. I need to save my removal for a better stabilize or whatever. Like, maybe they're at higher 7 health. Like, these situations come up where if you're a control deck, you have to choose when the right time is to use removal and what the right creatures are to use removal on. Sometimes you have to let something go. Sometimes you have to leave up the 1/1. Sometimes you have to leave up the 2/2. Or sometimes you just are willing to take that risk because you're looking for more of a blowout play later. So now, if you have these cheap creatures onto the board that A, are already rallying extra with Season Captain, but B, your +2/+2 Steel Scimitar is up to +4/+4, +5/+5, whatever, it gets crazy. Like, that is really, really good value. I like it. I would rather have +1/+1 on a creature and onto an item than +2/+2 onto one creature. I like to spread the buffs out. It's less all in. You're less susceptible to one piece of hard removal. And it gives rally decks kind of an extra layer of identity. Not that rally decks have ever been a thing. Besides messing around with them for fun, rally decks have never quite really got there. Because the reality and the identity has always kind of been, play your rally creatures. If they get removed early, you lose. If they don't get removed early, more than likely you're going to snowball and you're just going to win the game. And that was kind of rally in a nutshell. That was the identity. And it's fun to play. But it's not really something that can get counted on. So now, this card's kind of pushing rally into a kind of second tier of existence, that rally can be this aggressive to mid-range snowball-y deck that also plays a fair amount of items. And when I say a fair amount of items, I don't mean you have to pack your deck full of items. I mean, you could potentially have this be an amazing card just playing Cloak and Dagger, Steel Scimitar, and maybe Sentinel Battle Mace if you're running Battle Mage, or whatever. Like, Cloak and Dagger, Steel Scimitar, and pick a third item of your choice, I think is plenty to have Season Captain be amazing and to push that rally deck into that next tier of existence. And then we've gotten some new cards in Alliance War. Let's sort by Alliance War cards that I've already talked about making items decks more consistent. So now, Season Captain, her rally onto a mobilize item, it's extra cool because, yes, you're buffing the item, which gives you, like, pseudo-charge, like I mentioned, because you can drop it onto any creature that's ready to attack. But also, mobilized items are almost the same as you rallying onto a creature anyway, because they can be played onto an empty lane. So it's just really cool. Like, I would play the Ornamented Sword. You think about running like Dagoth Dagger. I'd run Ornamented Sword, or Ebon Thread Cloak is another great one, because the turn you play your Ebon Thread Cloak, if it's been rallied a whole bunch, your opponent can't target it with actions to the next turn, which means it's immune to that hard removal, outside of Dawn's Wrath or Immolating Blast or something that doesn't target. There's just, between the Alliance War Mobilize and some of the other items love that's been shown, maybe even Pack a Salvage, but I don't think it's super necessary. But between the Alliance War items love we've received, and Seasoned Captain kind of pushing items decks into another direction, or rally decks into another direction, I'm sorry. I'm pretty interested to see what can be done here. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that this card is instantly going to make, like, Rally its own viable archetype on its own, like, doesn't need any help or anything like that. I don't think that's the case. But I think it could take, like I mentioned, like an item aggro Rally deck from being, like, a tier 4 meme type of thing, like, don't even consider this deck. I think it can make it a little bit better. I still think it needs probably another card, maybe? Another card or two? But with the rally creatures we already have, plus gaining Mobilize from Alliance War, plus Seasoned Captain coming into the picture, I think there might be something there, and it'll probably just be a matter of striking the right balance between rally creatures, other cards, plus items. Now, whether the deck is good or not is one problem. Whether it's better than other aggro decks is a completely different issue. And that's kind of where some of these next wave of aggro decks struggle, is we have so many great aggro decks at the moment. Some of them got toned down a little bit with the catapult nerfs and stuff like that. But like Aggro Crusader, just regular raw Aggro Crusader is so good. Why would you run whatever this rally deck winds up being over Aggro Crusader if the power levels are going to be that different? So that's kind of the issue that a lot of these other decks wind up facing. But I don't think that necessarily has to be a problem. Like, not everything has to become a tier 1 deck. Like, if this winds up like a tier 2-ish, maybe tier 3, whatever, just like a good enough to get you wins, and you can probably hit Legend with it once you get the hang of it, which, honestly, anything, like, even tier 3 decks are hit Legend capable decks in this game if you have the time. You need decks across all of these levels, and the fact that you can maybe put down your Aggro Crusader and play something that's a little bit different in a rally items deck, it gives you enough of that little doing something different to help you keep playing, which, like I said, you need decks like that to fill out your ranks. You can't just have 3 decks, because that's how you wind up with the meta we had pre-Alliance War. So I like Seasoned Captain quite a bit, is what I'm trying to say. I think it makes you get creative with your deck building. It makes rally decks evolve a little bit from where they were into something maybe a little bit different, although the core of the deck will stay the same, but maybe they'll evolve a little bit from there. And it's a card that I'm really excited to play with. I think it could just be fun. I don't think it's going to be super good. If I had to give it like a 1 to 5 star rating, it's probably like a 2.5, 3 star card that goes into like a 1.5 to 2 star deck. But like I said, it's fun, and it's just another card that I can't wait to play with. And that's the best thing you can really ask for from these monthly cards. Monthly cards are very rarely ever going to shake up the meta. The most you can ask for is something that gets your brain moving, gets you thinking, and gets you excited to mess around with it. And I think that this card accomplishes that in my book. But let me know what you guys think of Seasoned Captain down below in the comment section. I'm looking forward to reading your guys' suggestions or how you're planning on using her. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.